The harbor was already waiting for you tonight. The water of DreamHarbour rested beneath a sky of quiet stars, and along the wooden piers, warm lanterns glowed like patient companions. Gentle waves touched the shore with slow, familiar rhythms, and somewhere beyond the mist, a bell sounded softly across the water. I am the sleep lantern, and I'm glad you have arrived. The world beyond the harbor has carried enough thoughts for one day. Here, the tide asks nothing of you. The lanterns expect nothing. The night itself seems content to drift and breathe. Tonight, I would like to tell you a story called The Garden That Floated on Moonlight. Long ago, beyond maps and beyond ordinary shores, there was a garden unlike any other. It did not grow upon the earth. It floated. Each evening, as the moon climbed quietly into the sky, a silver garden would rise from a hidden lake and drift slowly above the water. No ropes held it. No wind directed it. It simply moved wherever the night wished to carry it. The garden belonged to an elderly gardener named Elian. No one remembered exactly when he had first arrived. Some said he had always been there. Others believed he had once traveled from a distant land and simply never left. Elian never seemed concerned by such questions. He spent his days tending flowers whose petals glowed softly after sunset. He watered silver ferns that chimed like tiny bells whenever the breeze passed through them. He trimmed moon vines that stretched lazily across floating pathways woven from pale roots and starlight. The garden moved gently every night, crossing quiet waters beneath drifting clouds. And wherever it traveled, peaceful dreams seemed to follow. People living near the lakes and rivers often noticed it. They would wake in the morning feeling rested and calm without quite knowing why. Perhaps, while they slept, the floating garden had drifted nearby. Perhaps a silver blossom had opened beneath their window. Perhaps the scent of moonflowers had traveled softly through the night. Elian never tried to take credit. He simply continued caring for his garden. Each evening, after the last golden colors of sunset faded from the horizon, he would place a small lantern at the center of the garden. The lantern was old. Its frame was made of smooth silver metal polished by many years of gentle use. Inside burned a pale light that never seemed to flicker. Elian called it the Moonkeeper's lantern. No one knew where it had come from, not even Elian. Yet every night, he carried it carefully to the heart of the garden and placed it beside a circular fountain filled with still water. Then he would sit nearby and listen. The floating garden was never truly silent. Leaves whispered, water trickled, flowers opened and closed. Night birds called from distant trees. The lantern hummed so softly that its sound felt more like a memory than a noise. And so Elian listened. He listened to the garden the way old friends listen to one another. One evening, while the moon shone bright and round above the lake, he noticed something unusual. A tiny seed rested beside the fountain. He was certain it had not been there before. It was no larger than a pearl and glimmered with faint silver light. Elian picked it up carefully. The seed felt warm. Not hot, just pleasantly warm, like a stone that had rested all day beneath sunlight. Well, he said softly, smiling to himself, I suppose you have traveled a long way. The seed offered no answer, but somehow it seemed content to be found. Elian planted it beside the fountain and watered it with clear water gathered from the lake. Then he waited. The next evening, a small sprout appeared. By the following night, the sprout had become a slender stem. Several nights later, it had grown into a graceful plant unlike any Elian had ever seen. Its leaves were shaped like crescent moons. Its stem shimmered faintly beneath starlight, and at its top rested a single unopened flower. Elian continued caring for it. Days passed peacefully. The floating garden drifted across lakes and rivers. Clouds wandered overhead. Stars turned slowly through the seasons. The mysterious flower continued growing. Then one night, beneath a sky full of gentle silver light, the blossom opened. Its petals unfolded silently. The flower glowed with a soft radiance that seemed neither bright nor dim. It simply existed, warm, calm, steady, As the blossom opened, something remarkable happened. Tiny lights began appearing throughout the garden. At first there were only a few, then dozens, then hundreds. They drifted among the flowers like glowing fireflies. Yet they were not insects. They moved too slowly, too peacefully. Each light floated wherever the night carried it. Some rested among the moon vines. Others drifted across the fountain. A few settled briefly upon Elian's shoulders before continuing on their way. The gardener watched quietly. He felt no surprise, only wonder. The garden seemed pleased by its new visitors. Flowers leaned gently toward them. Leaves rustled softly as they passed. Even the moonkeeper's lantern glowed a little brighter. From that night onward, the lights remained. Every evening they emerged from the silver blossom. Every morning they faded into the dawn. No one knew exactly what they were. Elian eventually decided they might be small pieces of peaceful dreams. The idea suited him, and so he never searched for another explanation. The floating garden continued its nightly journeys. Wherever it drifted, the lights followed. They crossed lakes wrapped in mist. They floated above quiet forests. They wandered over meadows silvered by moonlight. Sometimes they drifted past sleeping villages. When they did, windows seemed a little warmer. Bedrooms seemed a little calmer. Dreams seemed a little gentler. Years passed. The garden grew larger. New flowers appeared. Silver trees stretched their branches toward the stars. The mysterious blossom continued opening each night, releasing its peaceful lights into the darkness. And Elian continued his quiet work. He watered. He pruned. He listened. He watched clouds drift overhead. He watched moonlight shimmer across still water. He watched the tiny lights float through the garden like slow-moving stars. Eventually, he realized something important. The lights never hurried. Not once. No matter where they traveled. No matter how far they wandered. They moved at the perfect pace for the night. A pace that asked nothing. A pace that never rushed toward tomorrow. A pace that simply existed. And so Elian began matching their rhythm. His footsteps became slower. His mornings became quieter. His evenings became softer. The garden seemed to approve. The lake approved. Even the stars appeared content. One peaceful night, while sitting beside the fountain, Elian looked into the still water and saw the reflections of countless floating lights. They drifted across the surface like tiny moons. Above them stretched the night sky. Around them bloomed the silver garden. And within that gentle moment, everything felt complete. Not because anything extraordinary had happened. Not because a great journey had ended. But because nothing needed to change. The flowers were blooming. The lantern was glowing. The water was calm. The night was kind. Sometimes the quietest moments are the fullest. Elian sat there for a long while. Perhaps minutes. Perhaps hours. The floating lights drifted lazily overhead. The fountain whispered softly. The garden traveled wherever the moon wished to guide it. And gradually, even the story of the floating garden began to feel softer. The silver flowers blurred into gentle colors. The pathways became quiet lines of moonlight. The lake stretched into a peaceful expanse of shimmering silver. The lights drifted farther and farther into the night. Slowly, gently, without hurry. And now, traveler, our voyage also begins to drift homeward. The floating garden grows distant across the water. The silver blossom becomes a small glow upon the horizon. The lights rise softly into the sky until they resemble stars. The lake settles into stillness. The moon watches quietly overhead. And ahead of us, DreamHarbour appears once more. The familiar piers wait beneath warm lantern light. The harbor water moves with slow, steady breaths. A distant bell sounds across the night. I remain here beside the shore, as I always have. The lanterns continue glowing. The tide continues turning. DreamHarbour continues waiting for every traveler who needs a peaceful place to rest. For now, the voyage is complete. The garden may continue drifting through the moonlit world, but you need not follow it any farther. The harbor is safe. The night is gentle, and sleep is drawing a little closer with every quiet moment. So allow the water to carry away the day's final thoughts. Allow the lantern light to soften around you. Allow the distant waves to become quieter and quieter still. I will keep watch here in Dream Harbor until morning comes. And whenever you return, another story will be waiting. Good night, traveler. Good night from Dream Harbor. And good night from the Sleep Lantern.